Some artists have their own style coming right out of the gate. In today's interview, Eli Minaya is one of those artists. You know one when you see one. His paintings are, to quote grandmother Markov, haunting, terrifying, brutal, hard to explain, and not easily forgotten. Now, granted, those were the exact words she used to describe my physical appearance as an infant, but what does that really matter? My therapist says it might, but why tell her? I'm running low on happy memories that we keep unpacking into emotional trauma, and who tells their therapists everything, am I right?
Jesus.
Exactly, cameraman. But rather than sandbag you with my happy childhood memories, let's get to the interview. And if you enjoyed it, please remember to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. You can even become a Patreon member where you can get even more Eli plus other goodies and merchandise that every Magic player loves while supporting the channel. And don't forget to let me know what you think of Eli's paintings or how many sessions of therapy a week is too much. Enjoy the interview. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So, okay, right. The first question is, what is the Bad Kingdom? I want to know what is the Bad Kingdom, because you.
So Bad King, right, was a moniker I came up with 8 or 9 years ago. Originally, it was Good King, and something wasn't, I don't know, driving, but switched it to Bad King, and it was sort of a design philosophy I was trying to live by or something. You know how it is when you get out of art school, everything's like everything's magical. And it was essentially it was a reminder to myself that oh Jesus, I'm trying to find some way that doesn't sound too navel gazy. It's a reminder that kings don't build kingdoms, people do.
Okay, I get it.
The how it worked into my design philosophy was that I would do all the work. I would take any job. I would, uh, you know, no shortcuts, cut no corners, and that was just how I started my career. It was just sort of how I wanted to sort of conduct myself. And Yeah, I mean, like it as a philosophy, it worked for me. I took a lot of jobs, and it kind of kept me on course, on track, and and then it just stuck. People started seeing, the more my work got out, people started seeing the name, and now it feels weird to not use it, I guess, and then Bad Kingdom is essentially the business name. I incorporated myself. It's mostly tax stuff. It's very boring.
Yes.
um, but yeah, it really is just the name of the business.
1 second. I actually did not turn my fan off, and I realize that now. I'm like, why do I have a fan running in the back? So, okay, there we go. That's going to be one of our little cuts right there. So,
No, sorry, I lived in Florida, so I get it.
Oh, yeah, me too. I'm in Naples.
Yeah,
So
I was in Sarasota
you,
for
the
I
Ringling,
went to
right?
Ringling. Yeah, yeah.
I love the Ringling Museum. I mean, like, I
Me
such
too.
a nerd over it. The Judas with the Head of Holofernes. I wrote one of my final papers about that in my undergraduate. Like, oh, it's so good. It's better than all the other ones.
Very
I,
cool.
I mean, just in my opinion,
No, yeah, I agree. I
she
was
looks
I
insane
was
in
a
it.
big
She just looks it. She looks apart.
Yeah, I was a big fan actually of the miniature circus exhibit. I mean, like it's probably just because like I played a lot of Warhammer as a kid, and so seeing this circus in miniature and like this huge, exhibit was just mind blowing to me. Yeah, it's just I don't know, just a weird thing. But I visit that museum every time I visit Florida. I still have family in Florida, so
Yeah, it's like it's we
yeah.
like the Ringlings. They did a good job. They did a lot that did a kindness to the community. I mean, because so many people get these incredible works of art and just lock them up, and
Sure. Yeah.
you don't ever get to see them. And they really, I mean, I guess it's not fair to say that they should be seen by the public, but they should be seen by the public.
No, I think they should be. Absolutely. Yeah, it's heartbreaking to know that some of the greatest works ever made will never be seen by
yeah,
anybody.
that are
But
they're just like a conversation piece for super rich people. It's like, oh, I got
yeah.
this one. Oh, that's
Yeah.
nice. Is how much did it cost? Yada yada. But I was interested with. I read that one of your earliest influences was Saul Bass, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit. How did you
Sure.
discover that, and then
Um,
how did he kind of come into the fold for you?
so early on, like late college, early post college, I really wanted to make comics, and so I was like obsessed with inking and comic art, and but I have this sort of penchant to dismiss techniques if somebody says it looks like somebody else. Like it's like I have a broken part of my brain that goes. So I had a teacher who was like, "Oh yeah, your inking looks like so and so," and I was like, "All right, well I don't want to do that anymore." So I was just looking for artists that inked in unusual and very unique and very specific ways. And I found like the Alec Toth and Sergio Topes and all that. And Saul Bass came up in my research, and there was something so honest about his sketches for the movie posters, And I was like, oh my god, that's the line I want. I don't want that line. I want to find my version of whatever that is, and so I consumed his work and and a lot of other people at the time. And yes, but so yeah, Saul Bass was a huge influence on my inking style, which I haven't done in a long time, but I'm gonna be doing a lot more soon. So I'm getting my first artist proofs in, so those are gonna have nice little black and white drawings on them. So I'm excited to get back to that actually.
I was gonna say the excitement that you had going on when you found out that like you could do that with the artist proofs. It was almost you were like it was like a pinch me moment because you seemed kind of surprised that everybody had said ink it.
Yeah, I absolutely. I went online and I saw what some of my peers were doing with their artist proofs, and they have these beautiful oil paintings and acrylic paintings, even some watercolor stuff, and I did see some black and white ink work, and I was just like, all right, well, nobody's gonna want that from me, and like so, I'm still sort of in the pinch me moment about working for Magic. Like this has been a dream job since I was in high school. So every time I discover that somebody wants an AP or somebody wants a drawing from me or somebody wants a print from me or whatever, uh, I can hardly believe it. And so with the interest in doing ink on the artist proofs, I mean, it's perfect because I miss my pens. I loved inking. I loved drawing comics. And unfortunately, I kind of go where the work is, and that's more illustrative work. And I do a lot of painting and mixed media collage and that sort of thing, and digital art. Um, so there's not a lot of room for that. Especially with magic and book covers and that sort of thing. Um, and I'd hoped when I was doing book covers that I might get hired to do interior illustrations, so that I'd have a chance to ink again, but that opportunity never arose. So like now that I have an excuse to break out my inks and draw on the back of these magic cards, I'm through the roof. I'm very excited, and like they just actually just had the foil and non-foil cosmic epiphanies show up today. So I'm
Wow.
like 10 minutes ago actually. So I'm like so I'm very excited. Yeah, so hopefully I'll have a lot more of those to show in the coming weeks.
Now, it's been a dream job for you since high school. What
Mhm.
was it working with Morbacher that got you in? What was the what was the in for you where you were able to really get your foot in the door? Because I know it can be a an intense.
I,
I mean, it's a
I
hard job
honestly
to land.
I honestly don't know. I'm very fortunate in that they approached me.
Okay,
I
so how did tell that story?
So I mean, it's a short story. I checked my email. I had an email from Zach Stella to do Cosmic Epiphany and Love Song of Night and Day. I imagine that he saw my work on Twitter, And that's honestly that's where I get a lot of my client inquiries. It's where I'm most active, I guess. Yeah, he asked if I was available, and that was it. You
So
know,
that's
uh,
that's 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 impressive only because I've known people getting contacted out of the blue to do work for Magic, but I don't know if I've heard of anybody being contacted out of the blue with specific cards in mind to do.
yeah. I had as soon as I said yes, they had a brief for me, and uh, it was just it was off to the races, I guess. And like I remember thinking to myself, I was like, okay, these cards, they have a specific vision for them. They think that I fit. So this might be my only opportunity to make Magic cards. I am gonna swing for the fences. I am gonna do the best job I can. I was just like, this is a once in a lifetime. Because like I honestly, but the way my work had evolved, I honestly I didn't think I'd ever get a chance to work for Magic. Um,
Why do you think that is?
well, so right when this happened, I had been working in a lot of collage work, and I can send you some samples of that.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of it was very abstract. It was figurative, but you mentioned Moorbacher, for instance, like the ink works that I did in the Angelarian books were sort of a proto state of what my work had become later on, and again, very abstract, figurative, not really, fair for Magic the Gathering, but at the same time, I had also started doing book covers, so I was getting some more painterly works done as well. So I think honestly, it was just like this confluence of events that happened, and Zach saw my work at the right time, and that was it. Honestly, like I said, I feel very fortunate that it happened that way because I mean, I had never even sent a portfolio sample to them. I just didn't think I'd be right, for it.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I feel extremely lucky. Lucky is not the right word, but fortunate.
Whatever
And
word you choose is, I think, is fair. I mean, it's totally the appreciation that you have for this is coming through clearly. So
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, I mean, like I said, I remember being in high school, walking into my local game store, and with my sketchbook, and I had this like really janky drawing of an elf with a sword, and he was kind of holding it like in not a possible way. It was like couldn't figure out how to draw the wrist, and I was like, I'm gonna draw for magic, and that I mean, that was shoot, 35, 36 years ago, um, so it's oh, that's not right. I'm sorry, 25,
I was
26
like, you
years ago.
look awfully good for that age. I
Yeah,
was
no,
like,
I'm 40. I'll be 42 this year.
yeah, but
Uh,
I feel like it was
yeah, I was
35
like,
years ago. That'd make
that's
you
not
like
right.
50 something. Like,
Yeah, 50 cents. It make me 50. Yeah. But yeah, it was yeah, the pandemic. I can't even remember what today's date
oh,
is. Honestly.
yeah, it turned my brain into like just soup, basically.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I've and then again in college, the by the time you get to your third year, that your instructors are asking you what kind of work do you want to do. You have to like focus your portfolio and focus your training. Like, what do you want to do? And it's like, oh, I want to make magic cards, and I want to do concept art, and I want to do book covers, and I just wanted to do everything. Like, I've always been a little sort of like shiny object syndrome, like, it's like, oh, that's a cool book cover, I want to do that, or look at that concept, I want to do that, and so like, and I got exposed to a lot of stuff. My mentors had long careers, so they had done a lot of things. So you know, for me, it was just all the same. I just wanted to work, but magic was always at the top of the list, and that was true for I think a lot of the students in my class. My mentors had exposed me to a lot of types of work, and so I wanted to do a little bit of everything. And magic was always at the top of the list, and that was true for a lot of the students in my class. I mean, we like at the time, which I think was like in the 2008, 2009. the field from where we were sending the students looked like just editorial illustration, like newspapers, magazines, and that sort of thing. And like none of us were really interested in that. Like we all kind of went to art school because we wanted to do concept art for Lucasfilm or make magic cards or do comic books and whatnot. But like the only people that were really hiring at the time were the editorial art directors. And so and most of our instructors were from that field as well. And so like it was hard to sort of find our way to those positions, to those types of that, those types of jobs. But we all grew up the same way, playing the same games and watching the same movies and, that sort of thing. So we all had the same influences. Uh, and a lot of my peers ended up in comics, and they wanted to be, which is great. It's always like, you know, great to see where they ended up, and just it's fantastic. So to finally end up working on Magic, to bring it back to that, it's gratifying, because like yeah, I can point at moments in my life and through my education where it was important to me. It was a goal. It was either the game I was playing or this pie in the sky sort of goal during college. So it feels really good to be here right now.
Yeah, I mean that's always wonderful to hear that kind of that validation that you get. But what's also interesting is that it seems like your work went through the growth and its own development that it needed to do in order to actually get the attention that was necessary. Because Magic, what I like about Magic now specifically is that they're starting to understand that they don't have to stick to a singular IP look. It doesn't have to be photorealistic. It doesn't have to be that kind of thing. They're allowing people to come in with their own established styles. And you're one of those people where you look at your work and it is clear that it is yours that does it. Now, even better is that it causes great excitement and it pisses the people off that suck, which is great. I love it. Because you hear that whole like that's not what Magic card looked like, and you're like, okay, you know what? Right there, they've won.
I personally haven't heard a whole lot of that. And everybody has like their idea as to what their hobby or their franchise should look like and whatnot. I think we all have like this thing. And for the most part, I mean, the Magic community has been like really welcoming to I guess to my style and to me, like it's just so I mean I feel like if there are people who are talking shit about my work, they're not doing it around me, so that's
I
fine
know
too. Like
I don't have I mean I just because of the uniqueness of it and the way that say like they've like people like Carly Mazur got like was kind of put in that position where it was so unique and your stuff is so unique that I just assume I don't go on Reddit too often because I'm not a masochist, but I just figured that there are going to be the douches that are going to douche out, but I don't have any
yeah.
evidence of douchery.
Oh,
So
that's great.
that's
Yeah. So I mean, even on so a friend of mine, a friend of mine who was part of my Magic playing group when I was a kid. I mean, we're still friends. We still play Pathfinder on the weekly. The He sent me when Cosmic came out. He sent me the Reddit thread because I'm also not on Reddit. They sent me the Reddit thread, and it was like nothing but like really nice things. I seriously almost like it started to tear up. I was like, holy shit, like this is not what I was expecting, like that for one, I mean, like as a book cover artist, there's not a lot of talk about who made the cover, like in publishing the talk is about the author, and that's great because I mean they obviously they're doing the work, but there's not a lot of conversation about that, outside of like the illustration industry. um, but to see people who appreciate Magic as a game and it's part of their lives having opinions, and positive opinions about my work, and like taking the time to like say something about it on on Reddit, I'm just like it was one of the proudest moments I had professionally. Like it just I just couldn't believe it, you know.
Your stuff's great, and what's really cool is you were given, like pieces that have like some, like already have established history to it, like the love song of night and day having this like already like mythic quality to it, and then you get to continue the story. And then but what's really, but I'm going to bring it back to the book covers, because you mentioned a good point, is that they don't talk about the artist often. They talk about the artists. And I've noticed lately, if you go to like a Barnes and Noble, it's less like, it looks more like books are designed to be attractive, like an interior decorator kind of way, where like, do they match the curtains and, the drapes and whatnot, as opposed
Yeah, I
to,
mean,
but your stuff, I mean, I applaud Tor, because, like, say for instance, I think it was Tor that did A Conspiracy of Mothers, that you did the artwork for.
yeah, that's Amazon Publishing actually.
Okay.
Tor, I've done a couple of other books and mostly short stories for their website.
And just to see a cover like A Conspiracy of Mothers, I feel like that is where you would have seen, if somebody was looking for you for magic, like that is an example of, okay, that's because it has that emotional resonance. And I actually, can you talk a little bit about that creation of that, because
Oh yeah, absolutely. So
that
like
one is arresting.
cover, that cover was hard fought. Like it took 18 months to finish that job. So I'm extremely proud of that cover.
It's fantastic.
And thank you. I think the reason why that cover is what it is because I had an incredible art director, and she Meredith Moroney was an art director for Amazon Publishing. She hired me for that job. Uh, it went through numerous revisions, and she had my back the whole way through. She's no longer at Amazon Publishing. And funny story, she's an art director at Wizards now.
Well, there you go. That's
Yeah, it was like so we stayed in touch, and when she told me, I was just like, I can't wait to work for you again if that ever comes up. Because she's fantastic. I have nothing but praise for Meredith. I think she's on the Secret Layer side of things.
okay. All right. That's all
So
right. Interesting.
um, but that cover. So the book, it's an incredible book. It's an incredible story, and I felt like I really needed to sort of hit the tone for it to be effective. And uh, there was at the time the marketing department wanted a different kind of message for the book. And we sort of went back and forth and trying to find the right balance because ultimately the marketing department decides what goes on a bookshelf. Because I mean, like it's their job to decide, to know and to learn and to what will sell. Ultimately that's their goal is to sell this book. Um, and while for me, like my first goal is to do honor to the story. Like it's always been part of my training. It's part of my ethos that the story is king. And as an artist, as an illustrator, if you're working with the story, I taught my students this. That story comes first, not your personal vision. Not your experimentation, not your wild style or whatever it is. The story comes first. You do your best. You put your best effort into to sort of synchronize with it, so that you're not fighting the story to get your stuff into your enjoyment and your creative expression. And if you're doing your job well, if you're listening to your art director, if you're listening to yourself, you can find that balance. And I think I found it with Conspiracy of Mothers. It's one of my favorite pieces. There's also an illustration under the dust jacket. It's a wrap of a leopard, and you'll
Yes,
see that
yes.
I use it often on my profile. It's my favorite piece I've ever made. It's the one thing I'll never sell. I have it framed in my office. And I sent the print to the author. She loved it too. We both felt like that leopard it caught the story. It caught exactly what the story was about. And yeah, so like everything it was like I said, it was hard fought. It was a long job, but in the end, it was totally worth it.
And like there's just such a, I mean, it's such a fascinating, like it's so fascinating. Also the ability that you, I mean, that you have for doing that, the depiction of the feminine, of the feminine, but like of like the brown, the brown skinned person. That it. I read a lot about what you talked about and some of the representation in art and how it's very important to you, which obviously, I mean, I agree. And you said that and it's I was curious, like, so what would you say to an artist who, okay, if they don't have the ability, let's say they live in a particularly homogenized area where they don't have access to people, like where they can make friends with people from like different cultures, what if they're sort of stuck in the middle of nowhere? What would you say to them, to what would be a good step for them to try to understand the experience and work that experience into their artwork?
That's a very good question. I mean, it's difficult. I mean, so I mean, we're online, right? Like for the last few years, I think everybody's been existing on, Discord and Reddit and whatnot, and
Mhm.
Twitter and whatnot. So I mean, like, if you're able to make friends with other cultures online, that's a great place to start.
Valid, valid.
Just sort of like, just getting involved, in whatever way feels most natural, I would say. I wouldn't suggest doing anything that felt forced, but like, like if you're a Magic player, for instance, there are Magic communities that are multicultural, that have Black, brown, and everybody, like everybody plays Magic, and you can seek those people out. There are Black and brown communities specifically, that you can try to connect with. I mean, I feel like there's a number of ways to do that, even just within your own hobby. As far as like the technical aspect is concerned, as far as like the depiction of colorful skin,
Yeah.
there's I mean, there's a lot of ways to do that. Like there are online figure drawing sessions where a model will stream the figure drawing session, and you just sit and draw. If you don't have access to that, they tend to cost a little money, and but if you don't have access to that, then photo reference is good, but like the camera, it flattens color, it flattens shapes and whatnot. So there's a lot more study that has to be that is involved with that. So you have to know your color theory, and you have to have like a basic understanding of the figure, so you know where the camera is destroying information. So, I mean, there's a number of ways to do it. I mean, I feel like if and then like, so for instance, like, if you're an artist and this is a part of your work you're struggling with, there are Black and brown artists. Reach out to one of your professional peers, and just be like, hey, I'm having a trouble with this part of the job. Can you give me a hand? Whether that's an experiential inquiry, like what was it like, or if it's a technical aspect, like, hey, can you help me figure out? I want to make sure this is right. There's nothing wrong with that. I know myself, like I would be happy to show professional courtesy and answer some questions if need be. That sort
That's,
of
I
thing.
mean, that's fantastic because you said in another interview, you said something that blew my mind, and I realized, oh my God, I do this too. How I defaulted to when I was reading a book and I was a main character, I would often default to them being white, even though
Yeah,
that's not even. I mean, there were times where I recall in my being like, no, dummy, that's not that. Like, imagine differently because the character is actually explicitly not that. But I thought to myself, you know, I never even I mean, I didn't give it the kind of a second thought, and for that to happen to you. And another thing that you said that was really fascinating was the fact you didn't even have a good grasp on skin tones that were similar to your own until late in your
yeah,
career. I mean,
yeah. A lot of that is exposure. It's a lot of, it's what we see. I talk about this a lot. Like, so I grew up as a kid. I was in the 80s and 90s, and like there are no Black people on the set of Friends. There are
right?
no
Yeah,
Black people, in He-Man. Like all the everything that I watched, everything that we watched, and so I feel like, so if you're 30, 40 years old, like 30 to 40 years old, then you're part of a TV generation where, a lot of times, like, that was what raised you. It seemed like you were just passing the time, but television teaches, It teaches social cues, it teaches vocabulary, it teaches what the world might look like outside of your living room. And if everything you see is white, when you go to imagine other characters, like the you're just going to recall what you've been seeing, because realistically you see what's on TV more than you see yourself. Like nobody's looking in the mirror 24 hours a day. Like that
I
doesn't
mean,
happen.
what you don't? I mean, well, okay, but
Not anymore. Not anymore.
in my earlier days.
But
But yeah, no, I get what you're saying. It becomes something that is it's not a choice anymore. It's a default setting, and it's not even
and it's not
indicative of
malicious. I don't. Well, I guess like I don't think it's malicious. It's just like a byproduct of like just
right.
like shitty business practices in Hollywood and whatever. Like and it's a systemic problem. It's systemic racism. That's really the most insidious part about it is like it's the easiest to perpetuate because like you don't have to do anything to reinforce that system. And
Yep.
like so television, film just continue to do that because like you couldn't actually at the time there wasn't a language for it. Like you couldn't actually say this is what you were doing, at least not like the person from the outside. There was actually quite a bit of uproar and protest and and action from within, especially when it came to women in film, especially in directing and whatnot. That's still a battle. Representation, and the whole spectrum of it is geared one way of it, to one direction.
It's yeah,
So
it's tricky. It's a very tricky thing because, like you said,
yeah,
you
absolutely.
systemic stuff.
Absolutely.
You can if you do nothing, that could be the act of doing something. Because
Yeah, yeah. And so as a kid, you're watching your cartoons, you're watching your TV, you're watching your soap operas, whatever it is, like that's the world. Like I mean, I as a kid, I grew up in New York. It wasn't until I was like 11 or 12 that I could like freely leave the house and feel safe. Like I didn't live in it. Like as a kid, it wasn't a particularly safe neighborhood, I guess. Like I don't really
Mhm.
remember. It's just my mom, or I was too young or whatever. But I lived. I learned about the world from television. So and the only time I saw black or brown people or Asian people was on like Sesame Street. And then
Right,
once you get to a
right.
certain age, that stuff just disappears, because like the content changes, what you're
Mhm.
watching change, the cartoons change, and like so I don't know if you remember the cartoon Thundercats, but like that was
Yes,
the first time.
yes, yes.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
gonna say.
But like
I was gonna say.
so I think everybody that I knew who was black or Hispanic, immediately it was like, well, Panthero's black. He's clearly
Yes,
black.
yes,
Because
absolutely.
we were unconsciously searching for people who looked like us. And the second we got anywhere near it, we were like, yes, there it
Yes,
is. I
yes.
think
I
that
mean,
I think that instinct is what grew into the language that we have now about systemic racism and representation. Is we all felt that. Sorry, I
I was
don't
gonna
I
say
don't
that. I was actually gonna say that I felt like the Thundercats had sort of like some like undertones. Like I it was trying to
yeah,
slip it in there. I mean, but it
yeah,
sucks
yeah.
that you have to use that coded, even have to decode it because it's not something that
Yeah.
needs to be coded.
Right, 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 right. So so like so the only way that because I mean I'm not an authority on this. I don't I can't say that I've even studied a lot of it because I mean a lot of these revelations are happening to me very late in my life, late in my career. So the only thing that I can do in regards to this, in regards to representation, is to make sure that I can do what I can for in the work that I make, and the art that I produce. And I'm lucky that so when I got the brief for Cosmic Epiphany and Love Song of Night and Day, there was no reference to these people's color or race or ethnicity or anything. And Zach just was like, great. We didn't even talk about it. It's like this is what I want
That's
to make,
awesome.
and he's like, cool, approved, get to work,
That's awesome.
and Yeah, it was fantastic. And so like so love song uh so love song was specific was a very important image for me, or it was an important opportunity, I guess, right? Because so I'm reading this the poem, this very beautiful poem that was written for the Duelist, which I love that magazine. I wish they'd bring that back.
Yeah,
Uh,
I know, right?
and so I'm visualizing the story, and they want me to hit on certain touchstones, and I'm like, all right, cool, this is great. I absolutely want to love. This is what I do. I want to pay homage to the story of this, the narrative of this poem. Um, and again, there was no specific direction as far as race is concerned. I was like, well, there's some low hanging fruit here. Like I'm supposed to depict a person who represents night and a person who represents day, and I'm like, that, I'm like, but I can push that further, like I really want to represent here, and so I was like, I can definitely still depict like two black people, because black has all this beautiful spectrum, and I can still hit these notes and I feel like I was successful in that. So it was an important opportunity for me to do that. And then these cards came at a time where there was a lot of civil unrest, and a lot of like introspection, like trying to sort of understand my role culturally, I guess, like well, what I should be doing, and I think a lot of black and brown people were just trying to figure out what can I do, and like shit, like the whole world's on fire right now for one reason or another, and like, you know, so having the opportunity to express myself in my art, like honestly, I mean, like as an illustrator, that's not really something that we're allowed to do, to get
Right.
this card and to actually express myself and express my point of view on things, like like without like deviating from the brief, it was magic, literally, no pun intended, I guess, or yeah. So um
It had to
you
happen.
know
It always happens. It happens. I've done it a thousand times. You got to do it.
yeah. So when Love Song came out, right? So I knew that this poem had history in the game, and I was like, I'm really happy to be a part of that. But to see people when the card comes out go like, I remember that poem, and like, have this poem celebrated again, and to have like this really tiny part in it, right? Like I was just like, again, feeling very fortunate. I was like, this could have been a nothing moment in Magic, and I still would have been very happy. But here were thousands of people just like on Twitter, like, oh my god, I remember this, and, da, 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 da. And the continuation of the story, because the couple that wrote it, the different, I guess there's three parts in the poem. They
Hmm.
ended up getting married, and like
Hmm.
there's this beautiful love story surrounding this love poem, and I'm like, this is, and so like again, like when I approach illustration and specifically narrative illustration, the story is king, and I'm watching this story just continue to grow, and it was fantastic. It was such a wonderful moment.
And I mean, but even what's even great is like looking at your like infectious inquiry or the hex gold slash. They're just so unique. And by the way, infectious inquiry is I mean brutal. Brutal. I don't know if have you do you usually go or have you done been like assigned things that are that brutal because that is I mean that is Phyrexian
No,
all the way.
so to come off Cosmic Epiphany and Love Song of Night and Day, and then so a video. I'm gonna butcher his last name. I
Ovidio
apologize.
Cartagena.
Yes, Cartagena.
He's
Thank you.
fantastic.
An amazing genius. Like I just like everything he does, like his personal work. Seriously, he's
Yeah,
and like so the two of them. So Zach and in a video, they they have given me the hardest assignments I've ever had professionally. Like they give me the most complicated things, and like and so a video stumped me on one piece, and I was like, I need help, and he was just like right on point. He just had the solutions. I was like, oh my god, this is so much better now. Yeah, I'm excited for that card to come. It's not out yet, but the so yeah, sorry. Back to the Phyrexian cycle. The I got these briefs and it was like, we want this soldier, like ripping the sinew out of a Phyrexian, and I'm just like, okay,
It's like,
cool. Like this sounds awesome, but like, holy crap! I've never. It's not really my thing. Uh, but I was like, these sound awesome. Like I really want these to be my thing. Like, I hadn't at the time been given a lot of opportunity to, um, like draw cool things. I've always been hired for very emotive or poetic things, and because my personal work is emotive and poetic, and it's like, that's fine. That's another reason why I didn't think I was ever gonna get a Magic Kit, and so I got these 5 cards, and like Infectious Inquiry. I forget specifically what the wording is, but I can show you. I can send you I can show you the sketches for those,
that would be
and
fantastic.
they're they're equally, you know, brutal to to borrow your word. And they were so fun to draw. So and this was also the first time I had done 5 cards. And the deadline, like there was a lot less time for these than there was for Cosmic and Love Song. So I was trying to find ways to really get the point across, right? And still be me and still be efficient.
Hmm.
And you know, so I needed to be very direct. Like there couldn't be any subtlety about it. So I think that's where the brutality comes across.
All right.
Where that efficiency sort of emphasizes the brutality that was in the briefs. Because like there's no fuss about what's happening in those cards.
New.
So
No, there's no, yeah, it's pretty clear what's going on. But it's something, I mean, it's so, I think, but one thing that I think when I saw shades of like the horror in you, and I might be completely off because I'm not sure about the plot of Philadelphia, but the work that you did for it, that painting there's something so, I don't want to say sinister, but it is dark. There's a darkness to that piece.
so that that cover was so that job was great. So Jason Shawn Alexander, who is the principal cover artist and interior artist for that book, approached me to do a variant, and I was like, I would love to work with you. So he and I actually have like his mentor was best friends with my mentor.
Hmm.
So we have a little and so um, he approached me to do the variant, and I was just like, hell yeah, of course. And I hadn't read Philadelphia, and so he sent me all the volumes that were out, and I devoured these books. It was like 3 or 4 it was 3 volumes. I devoured them in like a sitting or two. They're so good. It's a fantastic story. And the third volume had this sequence where uh, the woman that I depicted on the cover, who's a werewolf, is watching this. I'm gonna forget the name. It's a historic event. Is the bombing of a sort of a pro black organization,
Okay.
it's evading me right now. Like it's a very famous and very infamous event, um, in which the
I
police bombed. Say again?
I said, do you want to? I mean, do you want to Google it, or I mean, I don't.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think
me.
I don't think it's
I don't want to. I don't quite want to. Well,
I mean,
if
I don't
anything,
think it
I'll.
comes off as anything, but you just, I mean, names that are difficult to remember. But
Yeah, and like so, it gets bombed, and everybody dies in this bombing, and she survives. She's a werewolf, and she's standing in the fires of this wreckage, and it was such this powerful moment, right? And I was just like, I I want to draw what she's feeling, right? And you know, and she's not in werewolf mode. She's just like exactly
yeah,
like how I depicted, right? But like what I wanted to show that werewolf. I wanted to show the rage, and Jason and his team, they loved it, and then I went to town on it, and it's very very lucky to work on that book, to have to interact with that story that way, and it was, and so that one was, so like I hadn't read, this was for the volume that was about to come out. Um, so I didn't really know what was going to happen next, but like I sort of tried to imagine at least the emotional tone for it, and I guess I guessed right, I got, and it was, I think it was a strong cover. People liked it. I don't know how it did as far as sales are concerned, but like, by the time it came out, I was like, I'm just happy. I'm happy it's in print. Yeah.
It's a fucking awesome painting. It's
Thank
I
you.
mean, and I guess I'm glad that I at least my inclination was right, that I felt like that there was a horror,
Yeah.
obviously from not just from a supernatural, but from like a real world
Yeah. Yeah. And
trauma.
that story, that the whole story suffused by that. I mean, it's one of the few books I say people should read. Like it's because it uses a lot of the sort of historic injustices and the rage surrounding around that. And it fictionalizes it, but it doesn't diminish it. Like
Mhm.
that fiction horror, it's all meant to amplify and clearly communicate, that rage, the injustice, and it's still like, entertaining is not the right word, but it's still just like, it's a good read.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I mean,
and,
but
and it's
great
a
horror can
beautiful
do
thing.
that. It can
Oh yeah,
be
absolutely. Yeah.
it can pay
And it's a
respects
beautiful
to it.
book.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful book. Jason is an incredible painter, an incredible comic artist. I yeah, I think I feel fortunate that I have a cover that that came out simultaneously with one of his for the same story. Like that's awesome to me.
And I saw that, and this is just like in my own mind, but I'm like, like in about 20 years, there's going to be a Criterion version of Get Out by Jordan Peele, and I totally see you
No doubt.
doing. I could see you doing the artwork for like the special edition Blu-ray of that. Like,
So
I
Criterion is on my bucket list.
is
That's
it
what,
okay?
yeah,
Yeah,
that's one of my dream jobs. I had a handful of dream jobs when I came out of school. I've gotten two out of three. And I got to work for Tor, uh, and specifically for Iron Gallo, who is an incredible art director. And I mean, she's vice president now, I think, of Tor, and she's incredible to work for. And Magic, obviously,
yeah.
and then the third one would be Criterion. Just
That's
like,
You're so Criterion. Like I'm just like so Criterion. Like I mean I mean, I don't know anybody there, but I'll just yell about it, because honest to goodness, that's what I saw yours, and I was like, that is so, like, I just see it, and it's that's so funny. I mean, like, oh, it's a
that's
testament.
flattering. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
it's
mean, one day we'll see.
yeah, it's
We'll
so
see.
suitable for you. Okay, hypothetical. If you could pick any like movie that, imagine like fantasy Criterion version, like which one would you like to do? Like if you had
I'm
to.
so bad at this type of
Oh,
thing
but
because
it doesn't matter because I got it.
no,
You're
I
gonna
know, I
have to
know, I
do
know.
it.
All right, so okay, so all right, I'm gonna give you two, right?
Okay.
Because one is near and dear to my heart, right? But it's never gonna get a criteria. And then the other one would be like a professional goal. Let me see. So, uh, Dark City would be my number one. I would love to do a Dark City Criterion.
I could see
Uh,
that.
that's yeah, that's maybe my number one favorite movie of all time.
It's a great
Um,
movie. It's a great movie.
when it came out on DVD, in the 90s, I,
Yeah.
I I watched it every night for 3 months. It was crazy. And then it came out on Blu-ray. I did it again.
Yep.
And then my near and dear, never gonna happen because this probably doesn't deserve a Criterion. The Ugly Dachshund, which is a Disney movie, a black and white Disney movie about a guy who inherits a Great Dane puppy and raises it, and chaos ensues. It's just funny and cute, but I love
Huh.
Great Dane. Yeah, it's a ridiculous pipe dream. It'll never happen, but yeah, it's like I love Great Danes, and that movie is a big part of why, that they're big and goofy, and so.
They're funny. Yeah, they're yeah. It's funny how like certain animals they imprint on you with their personalities
Oh yeah.
and whatnot. So like I guess one of the things that I kind of wanted to ask you also was I read in one of your blogs that you went to a convention and you got to party in Todd Lockwood's hotel room or hotel suite. I interviewed Todd. Todd's awesome, but you said things got weird. I want to know what weird is because I have to know. It's you can't like leave that morsel hanging. So what weirdness ensued?
Oh no, I couldn't.
Oh, not
No,
even a
the
little bit of weirdness.
Scott
I'm sure
Lockwood
Todd would be
Party
cool with it.
is an institution of Dragon Con. And nothing untoward. It was weird, man.
1 second, I'm gonna grab my Shih Tzu. I got a 17-year-old that is she's blind and deaf, so she barks a lot. So she's just gonna sit on my lap for a second because
Totally fine.
she's demanding something. So but I apologize for
He's
that. Okay.
17.
Huh?
He's 17.
17 years old, right here.
That's impressive. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
my Dane lived to 11.
that's a
Uh,
long time for big
yeah,
dogs.
for a Great Dane, it was a long time.
That's
It's a great
rough.
dog.
It's rough when it happens. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was rough. But she had like, I mean, 11, almost 12 years with a Great Dane. That's more than anybody can ask for. So yeah, that
Yeah,
was.
it's did do you have another dog? Did you get another dog?
Oh, so my wife had gotten rescued a mutt um, a couple of years before Beatrix, my Great Dane, died. But he passed away 6 months ago, unfortunately,
Oh,
from cancer. But she just got a new. It's a not a German Shepherd, uh, some sort of Shepherd. It's like all black. It's this beautiful dog. He makes me crazy. But, personally, I'm not ready for a new dog. I had tried to rescue as a deaf pit bull last year, and it just wasn't a good fit. And
mhm.
that's when I realized I'm just like not ready for another dog just yet. But I got a cat, and the cat's great.
I want to know Strathmore 500 5-ply plate Bristol was discontinued, and you mentioned that being like a big bummer. What does that mean? Like for I'm a lens.
So this is the curse for every traditional artist. Eventually, the your favorite pen, your favorite paper, your favorite sketchbook, the people who make it decide to not make it, or the company goes out of business. And Strathmore, I didn't know that they were discontinuing this. It's a very smooth illustration board, and I was using it at the time for watercolor painting, and it does this really beautiful effect because it sort of takes your stroke and it pushes the water out and makes a little outline around the stroke. It's gorgeous, um, and it and I was like, I couldn't find it anywhere. Like I would search all of Rhode Island and all of Boston. Those were the two places I was traveling. I was living back and forth. My wife was who I was dating at the time was in Boston, and I was living in Rhode Island, and both states were out. And I was like, so I called my college, the campus store, because that's the last place I was able to buy any of it. And I was like, hey, do you still have this? And the store manager was like, yeah, I've got like 300 sheets or something like that. And I was like, let me get my credit card. 1 second.
Yeah, give me all of it. I'll take all of it.
Yeah, I bought all of it, and that was 7 years ago, and I still have quite a bit. I use it now for the collage work that I do because it's extremely sturdy, and it's absorbent without sort of losing strength. Like so, you could douse it in water, let it dry, and it'll dry flat. It's great. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do. Actually, I do know what I'm gonna do once I'm out of it. I've been collaging on masonite, which a lot of oil painters use. And that's been pretty good.
And collaging
Yeah.
is, I mean, Is it as because is it as the creation of it, is it as chaotic as you would think? Because I know that there is, obviously there has to be a grand scheme of things, but then at the same time, for someone like an ignite like me, I'm thinking, do you start with the full the full vision of what you're going for and then do the nuances, or can you start with the nuances and then build around it? I mean,
You know,
how do you do it?
so it really depends on the piece. Both have happened. I don't go in with a decision about where. Well, actually, I do usually go in with a decision about where I'm going to start. But it is very much like I let the piece tell me what it needs. But I work with transparent paper, right? And so nothing's ever really covered up, which at the same time gives me security in that I'm not going to really lose anything. But at the same time, it's very volatile because if I'm layering over, for instance, the same image, if it's off by any degree, it makes the image appear to be unfocused. So for instance, I stopped doing multiple layers on faces because I think like it was too complicated. So I
Mhm.
tend to put those down really quickly. But the everything else, the way I mix color is all transparent. It's very much like watercolors, I would say, because I can lay down, this sort of mostly transparent blue paper, and then go, all right, well, I want a little red in it, and I would just like print out red, and then just lay it down, and then the ink is I want to say like 60% water soluble. So when I go over it with the adhesive, which is I use a matte medium, it starts to dissolve the ink a little bit, and that mixes on the board, right? So that gives some painterly effects. Um, and then so also a lot of times when they start to mix, things happen, and I have to respond to that, and that's where the nuances come out, and some of those nuances I find digitally. So like how it works is like I start with a pencil drawing, I scan that in, and I tend to do like sort of quick digital iterations of them. I'll lay over textures and I'll paint and I'll draw some more and I'll paint some more. And then I print out all of the iterations, right? So it's like 20, 25, 30 different versions, right? Just like quick paintings of this thing, real loose, but colorful and distinct. And then I just start tearing them up and putting them together.
Well, that
And
seems
then
scary.
it can be, so I mean, to think the one time it went wrong at the wrong time was I was working on a cover for another one for Amazon Publishing, and the collage process fell apart the day before it was due, and so I
Oh,
actually remake the entire collage, right? And I did I did it while playing Pathfinder actually because I was just like because I didn't have to think. So I'm online, I'm playing Pathfinder, and I don't want to. I didn't want to miss game.
right.
And
It's
so
in
like, hey guys,
priorities.
I'm gonna be working while I do this, and they're like, don't worry about it. It's fine. Do what you're gonna do. And I'm just sort of like getting. I put the bones down again. I start iterating. It came out a stronger piece. It always comes out stronger when you have to do it again. But like I
Oh,
needed to get it done that one day, and the only reason why that's possible is because I had solved a lot of the problems the first time around. But
okay.
sometimes the falls apart. Like sometimes the glue dries wrong. I think one of my biggest nemesis, I guess, in this in this technique is that if a layer of glue goes down and doesn't dry, and then it doesn't dry completely, and then I put something over it, and the glue above that dries completely, like that moisture never escapes. And what
Oh
happens is
shoot.
it starts to sort of peel without actually, so like it starts to peel and it creates a bubble underneath the dry layer, and you can very visibly see it. And I haven't figured out how to fix that other than to like cut that part out,
Huh.
and then so it's a very volatile technique. I don't use it a lot lately. Like it's time consuming as well. So like with I've done a couple cards in the technique, 3 or 4 cards. They're yet to be released. I'm excited for those to come out because I think
I was
this
gonna
is something new
say,
for.
I hope
Uh,
they make it one card or two like that. That's
yeah,
okay. Good to
well,
know that.
for instance, like if I like for instance with the Phyrexia all will be one cards, that was a cycle of 5, and like there just isn't time for that, you know. So those were all digital. I would have loved to handle some of those as
Have,
collage work, but
have you considered, they were all digital. Have you considered doing repaints of them?
so I did a repaint for Love Song of Night and Day on commission. And that was a fantastic experience. Like I said, Love Song was such an important card for me that I always wished I had an opportunity to make that one traditionally. It's Cosmic as well, because I mean, like, and I think I'd like for myself to do a repaint of Cosmic,
Yeah,
just because
yeah.
like there's something enormous about it that I feel like I hit a scale I've always wanted to hit in illustration, as far as like the picture is concerned, and I feel like that piece would look really nice, like really big. But the repaint for Love Song came when the card released, and there had been an auction for the original art, and I think the person who commissioned it didn't win the auction, but like wanted to like support my art somehow, and they wanted to own art, to do with that card. So they suggested the repaint, and it I scaled it up to uh, it was 16 by 48. I want to say
That's
it's a
wow.
big,
Yeah.
big piece. Um, and it really pushed me because I had been making like the most collages are the biggest collage that I had made it. The collages that I made professionally, as far as work is concerned, were about 15 by 20,
Hmm.
and I have done one or two 2 foot by 4 foot pieces, and they're still unfinished because working at that size and this technique is very problematic. So like I
Yeah.
chip away at them slowly. But I knew how to do it. It was really just about like really sitting down and just like getting it done. So like when I got this, like when I was working on it, I learned a ton about my own technique, and sort of what the limitations are and how to get around them. And I got a little bit of a do over on some parts of the card art that I wasn't super happy with. That I wish I had approached differently. So it was really nice. And I have a high res photograph of that art of the
Okay.
repaint. So I'll send.
Cool. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, anything like that, I'd live for it. I live for that kind of stuff.
I have process photos and all that, and
Oh
even
wow.
there's even a shot of the technique failing on this one. So this was one of the paintings where the technique had completely failed, and I
Oh
was
wow.
terrified. It was deep into the process. It was deep into the making of it, and I was like, it's taken me 2-3 weeks to get to this point, and now this thing has just completely shit the bed, and I don't know what to do. Sorry, pardon my French.
Oh no,
Yeah.
cursing's allowed. Remember, I fucking told you earlier. So it just
So I was like so I just stopped. Like I was like, all right, I'm going upstairs. I'm gonna go play some video games and just like I'll come back to this tomorrow. I don't know what to do. Um, and what I ended up doing was taking a belt sander to it, right? So
whoa.
this was a masonite, and this is why maybe masonite will definitely be where I work in the future. Because like if this had been the illustration board, I would have absolutely had to start over. But with the masonite, I took a high powered belt sander to it, and I just ground that collage right off the board, printed out the section again, right, the base drawing for it, laid it on, and went back to work. And it was like it never happened.
Wow,
So
that is a violent that is really like you talk about the struggle of the creation and the creator, but that's like some Bruce Campbell live like Evil Dead shit.
yeah, it's the first time I'd ever taken a power tool to one of my paintings, and like it was just honestly like the fixing of that painting was so fun, right? Because of that, like I mean, yeah, it's like like it showed me something new. It was like, you think you got this, and it just like kicked me in the teeth, and I was like, I had to figure it out, like
That's crazy.
uh,
I mean,
commission.
that's so cool though.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I'm really proud of the way the repaint came out. I'd love the opportunity to do more of those. Like I said, Cosmic is probably one I'll do for myself. Yeah,
Do them all, honestly, because the thing about it is that it's, and this isn't just from a like from a financial aspect, but there's somebody out there who is like chomping at the bits to get every version of like whatever it is. I mean, whatever card you do, there is a super fan, and it's like that's the kind of, I think that's a really cool thing about Magic is that there's it's out there, somebody is like either they're obsessed about it, or even even better, it's like a young player sees it during a formative experience when they're playing the game, and it's like and
I've
the,
had that experience. I absolutely know, and like,
yes, yes.
and it's hard for me to imagine being the person who is somebody's favorite. Like I've gotten a couple messages already that were incredibly sweet and incredibly kind, incredibly flattering, and like those are like I just that's amazing to me. But like when I was first playing, back in the '90s, in the early aughts, it was Adam Rex and Rebecca Gay
Mm-hmm.
and Ron Spencer. Oh shit, Ron Spencer just like like he had this energy to his work that was frenetic and it was like
Mm-hmm.
exciting. And he did that card. It was lightning something, and it's a guy being electrocuted on it. Hold on, I'm gonna
Oh,
find this card.
yeah, I was gonna say like, but like I Terror by Adam Rex is like the one that I interviewed Adam, and like, oh my
Oh,
god,
absolutely. Yeah. So Terra was a terrifying card to me. I was like,
it's
it was the first piece of art. I was like, this fear in me. But
yeah,
then just recently, like I saw Adam Rex's Terra, who was another one of those artists that like I was super inspired by. His Terra is so
it's
incredible.
yeah,
I
it's
was
like it's terror. I mean, but it's just this horrible like circle of hell, just over and over and over and
Yeah.
over.
When I look at it though, when I look at it, I goes like, this guy is so terrified. He's leaping out of his skin. And I'm like, is that the gag? I need to know. I love uh those two cards. Rebecca Gay and you know a few others really just like they made these beautiful works. Oh, sorry, trying to find these cards.
Was it I can help too. Was the Ron Spencer one that we were?
Yeah,
Let's see here.
Lightning Blast. Is it right? Lightning Blast?
Let me see. Ron Spencer rifle. We'll do this. We can make it happen. Let's see
It's not.
here.
It's Aether Flash.
Okay, okay.
Aether Flash.
Okay, yeah. Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
that card. I've never ever played that card, but I carried that card with me all through high school. It was
Really?
it. It remains to me one of my favorite pieces of Magic art. And I can name my two favorite pieces. It's Aether Flash and at Heartwarden by Adam Rex. Uh, I remember the last tournament I played in, I was carrying a foil Heartwarden, and that was like my good luck charm. I was playing Stompy Green or something like that. You know, I love the art on those
You
cards. They're
know,
incredibly beautiful.
there
Like
is
I have to stop playing. Sorry.
there is it's and I'm looking at Heartwarden, and there you wrote about in your blog how you had a teacher of yours that tell you like point blank that you couldn't paint, and the gist of it though was that this was not an insult. This was a a point of clarification for you that your strong suits were in other areas, and I'm not doing it justice, but the thing was is that you
You got it.
you learned a lot from this teacher,
Yeah.
and he ended up
Yeah.
becoming one of your more important mentors in your life. But what's interesting is that looking at Heartwarden, I can see that when you put up a painting as an example in that article, and I see the inspiration
Yeah.
of
You see it there, right?
I see it. I see it. I see you like
Yeah.
aspiring to do, Adam Rex, which I think is like, I think that that's healthy in any young artist, right? I mean, like
Yeah, absolutely.
we
Like,
human
and
beings, we learn by imitation. That's how we learn how to talk. And,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
so it would
And
make sense
and
that art would do that.
yeah, and like and so I mean like I think I think that was 15 years apart. I mean, so Heart Warden came out, what, Urza's Legacy, like
Yeah,
that
that
painting that, you know,
1999 it was, believe it was
yeah.
released.
So that painting was in 2000, 2009, 2010.
Hmm.
And because like there, like I think it's true for a lot of artists. Like there's some art that just becomes perpetual touchstones. Like they're just things that they're
Has to
part of
be.
your foundation. They're part of who you are as an artist. Your
Yeah.
creative drive. Heartwood was one of those pieces. Like Either Flash was another one. There's another one. I want to say is Rebecca Gay.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Um,
Her stuff is
um,
just so, it's so her.
yeah,
It's just,
I mean, like, there's something. So at the time when I first saw her work in Magic, and it may not have been this card, it may have been something else. But when I first saw her card, um, I wasn't exposed to a lot of beautiful art. I think like I was a graffiti artist at the time. It was high school, and so I was looking at a lot of graffiti. I was looking at a lot of cartoons and animation, comic books, that sort of thing. And then even with Magic, there's a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of exciting art, but like when I looked at her card and I looked at Adam's card, like there's a very rare beauty that they,
yeah,
that they bring to the game.
it's
I mean, I
ethereal.
don't think it's rare anymore. I think Magic has sort of evolved to the point where like they want beautiful things as well as exciting things. But at the time, like everybody's going on about the cool art on Terror and Aether Flash and things like that. And the Ron Spencers and all that. But then to see these quiet, beautiful illustrations from Rebecca, I've never had the chance to meet her. I hope to one day meet her and like try not to fawn and like
Yeah.
gush and whatnot. But to like
Yeah.
really ask her
It's
about her
hard to
work.
do that sometimes when you, because it's just like you have no idea how, but to bring it back though, for honest to goodness, whether you can, whether you're, I mean, whether it's something that you can accept or not, that's gonna happen. For some young person out there is gonna have that to your cards. It's inevitable, and it's so that's why I say repaint everything that you do, because this is going to be this is it's how it works. The cycle works like this. I swear. And I'm
Yeah, I see it time and time again. It's so I mean, I even before it was Magic, I've been really lucky to make friends, to become friends with Magic artists, and it's like it was when I was working with Pete, for instance. Through him, I met quite a few people. And like to go back to my influences, Jeff Maricola was another one of my biggest influences, and I'm super lucky that I can call him a friend.
yeah,
And um, like I met him at a Dragon Con 6 or 7 years ago, and like I just immediately liked him. Like I was just like I just like he's just such a nice guy. Him and his wife are fantastic people. Sylvia's fantastic. She's a fantastic author. Um, so you know, it's what making that transition, and like or like just like changing my perspective on these people. Just and I mean, I'll never call myself a peer of Jeff McCullough or anything, but
but you are.
I'm happy, I'm content just to be able to say we're pals, and it's I mean like it's a dream come true, it's to imagine myself in that role for somebody else, for a young artist, for a young player, or whatever. I still can't do that. Like I haven't been around long enough. Like maybe
It's
one day but
I've interviewed over 100 of you guys and gals, and I will say this: it's going to happen. I mean, like it will happen. So you don't have to be ready for it. You just have to. All I'm saying is just repaint everything. Just that would be my suggestion. Just because,
yeah, I mean, honestly, like so the desire to repaint. Um, like I mean I love making art, I mean every artist goes through a period where they hate their work, and that's a byproduct of just wanting to like grow and evolve and whatnot. But I like the stuff that I make for the most part. So like I'm excited to repaint some of these things for myself. Like I said, like for Cosmic, I really want to repaint it for myself. I'd like to hang it in my studio, just so it's the first. So like this one was finished first. It was finished before Love Song, so it is the first Magic card I've ever made. So it does hold a special place for me. So I would absolutely love to repaint it. It really comes down to a matter of time. Like I just became a father, so like, and I
Okay.
have like I have twin boys, and like
Ooh,
you know, so it's really like if I have time to be in the office in the studio, working, like uh, I'd like to be making new things, I guess, and
I
like we're
gotcha. I
continuing to
gotcha.
learn. But if that changes, and like my wife and I are trying to find time, not trying to find ways to eke out more time for me in the office between jobs. Like the jobs, there's no problem. Like we work that out. But like time for me to be in here in my off hours to paint and to bring the kids down here so they're safe and whatnot. Like my office is beneath my
That's
so
tough. Like, I mean, I one baby is a handful, two babies is like it's
it's a lot
amazing
of
that
work, but
you can.
like they're already worth it. Like they're
Oh,
fantastic
absolutely,
little.
absolutely. But I'd imagine there's not a lot of
So,
sleep that happens.
no, yeah, the first few months, first 6 months were. Oh man, I finished. I finished a Magic card the week they were born, and I was so sleep deprived. It was definitely not my best work. And Vic Ochoa, who's was the AD on that, was like, "You want to take another run at this?" Like, I mean, I was clearly exhausted, and he got it. He's a father too, and he was. And I had gotten it in early, so there was still time to
Right.
work. But and I think we were both pleased with the final result. But I mean, like, that's life.
I mean,
But
you get that like super energy too. Like when you like become a, I've heard, at least I've heard that when people become parents, like they get that all of a sudden they get this like natural surge of where you couldn't make yourself stay up that late without any children, and
yeah,
then when you have them, it's all of a sudden you get the like daddy supercharge, I guess would be the.
yeah. I think I'm starting to get to that point. Like their inconsistent sleep schedule is not affecting me as much as it like I've been up since 4:30, and I feel fine, and like after our interview I'm gonna work, and so like it's yeah, I think I'm starting to get to the point where I understand the energy needs my children have, and my body's like, all right, okay, we're gonna dig a little deeper, and and it's working out, and so which is great because like right now I'm in between commissions, so I'm focusing on personal works, and like like I said, my artist proofs just came in, so I'm gonna mess around with those. um so like and like so it's I'm glad that the energy's starting to come back, honestly, so it's great. But yeah, so as far as the repaints are concerned, it's really just a matter of time, once once I can see that there's a window for me to do it, I probably will, just again for my own sort of edification, my own gratification. Um,
It'll be
you know,
gratifying for others too. It will be.
I hope so.
Again, no bullshit. It's just it's the way it is. I know because I interview. It's just I talk to people who are art lovers, and I talk to the people who are inevitably going to ask these questions. So it's good to know. I like to bring it up in the interviews because then it gives the people interested. They don't have to wonder if that's
Yeah.
something that's
Yeah,
even.
no, yeah. I mean, like, so I mean, so with commissions, it's different, like if I get a call for or an email, nobody calls anymore. If I get contacted for a job, or a private commission or something, and it's my job. I drop everything, I do it. Yeah, my wife and I would make it work. Um, So, but it's just with the personal works, like I said, this technique is time consuming. So like, at the scale that I want to do this at, which size is 4 feet by 6 feet. Um, I am going to need months to make that.
That's like almost the size of a movie poster. Like that's huge.
It's really large. So one of the things that it was part of the experience of this job, Zach was very specific. He was like, we really want to communicate the scale of this image, so like do your best to make it feel big, without like making the people in the figures look tiny, and like that was the biggest obstacle. Um, and I was worried about how I was going to accomplish that. And I just started drawing and I started painting, and like by the time like I stopped thinking about it, and I just sort of hit this, I don't know, this momentum. And when I got to the black and white version of the piece, I saw it. I was like, this is my scale. Like this for me, it feels like an enormous illustration, and I'm like, it's going to be on this little tiny card. But like when I look at it on my computer monitor, I see it like I see it like I could stand next to this figure, And I was like, I knew then that I was going to try to make it larger at some point. Um, and then I did the repaint for Love Song, and I was like, yeah, I can definitely do this. Like this is an attainable sort of size. Um, so I wanted to go as large as I could. Like I have a lot, so I print out all the drawings and my textures and my colors and all that. And I have a enormous 24 inch, 24 inch, 20, 48 inch, sorry, printer.
Damn.
Um, yeah, so then that's actually what I used for Love Song, because I mean I was printing very large textures, and the figures were huge. So I knew I could do it with a smaller printer, but I would be piecing together shoulders, and I was like, I don't want to do that. Like I mentioned before, lining things up can be tricky. So there are some
Right.
parts that need to come out whole. And so I have the tools to do it. It's really just finding the time. As soon as I see that window, I'm gonna go for it.
Well, I mean, it's hats off to you, and hearing about like really that you have twins and you've got work. I will not keep you much longer. I'll give you one last question would be if people want to get in touch with you, want to commission something from you, where's the best place to go, and how can they do that?
Uh, my home base, my website is probably the best bet. All my contact information is there. It's bad-king.com. I couldn't get bad on hyphen, but no, whatever. Um, and Twitter is a good place to reach out to me. I'm most active there. Actually, I check my DMs there. I don't with Instagram. I'm rarely on it. And I'm not on Facebook. So, um, yeah, Twitter, my website. And then with the website, you can find out more information about like, if you're interested in commissioning or what's available. Like the APs or the artist proofs will be listed there. My commission slots are there for small commissions. Anything larger than what's listed there, you can email me and we can figure it out, or DM me on Twitter. You can also contact my agent, Donnie Cultwriter,
Mhm.
who's fantastic, and he can give you information on how to reach me for commissions and that sort of thing.
Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure, and congratulations on your the very deserved success, and I look forward to what you're going to bring to the game in the future.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This was super fun. Yeah, this was a great interview. I appreciate it.